Guilty Gear Exar. Rev 2.
Who dares to enter the mayhem?
Alright. Let me message Joe. You're in chat? You can just type in chat. Don't type you're in chat. Here, let me pull this stuff up real quick. Hey, what's up, Kevin? What is it? Slayer Rincon. You think maybe your stream volume was down or something? You didn't hear me ask? Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks goes by really fast. It's a big part of why I don't do these weekly. These are, like, there's no reason to do these weekly. It's unnecessary. Oh, I gotta take a picture of my cat. She picked a funny pose. Alright. Alright. Let's get to it. Started 2 o'clock. Alright. Usually, how long is this? I'll usually go we'll go like 5 minutes in because it's not that long of a set. Oh, I forgot. Hold on. I forgot browser audio has to like be manually set. Hold on. I forgot. Just bench loud. Here. What's up, Nemesis? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'll open up my notepad too. Oki, hello. It was an early meter expenditure. It's not that big a deal. Here, you just kind of have to block it out. The other side. Here, I would just play backdash. Still gets hit. I will say this is like a minor thing, but this is also something to be said about just timing reversal timings better, because he picked throw us and he should have gotten duffed for it. If you play an answer back in the near future, you might submit a record. You could submit whatever, honestly. I don't play either. Well, I play Kai, kind of, but You'd be surprised. You don't need to play characters to analyze them. Yeah, 2D is really good there. Yeah, I kind of play Kai a little bit. Like, the way I would put it is, I have played a lot of this game, and oh, that sucks. Yeah, it's still a little too heavy for that. I don't really like toot my own horn because it's corny to do that, but I know a lot about the game, and it usually is like independent from just my characters. In order to be good at Exer, you have to know a lot about the game. Caught up, cross-up input. That's why I'm like, nah, that's fine, man. You'd be surprised. There's some characters I struggle to give solid advice for, but nice. It's kind of weird though. Yeah, that pickup is not normal and common. To throw it down. Smash. Speed. Yeah, I would eat the blitz too. This is tough, but just one of those things where it's like, I think once you see this as Slayer, usually backdash and a jump cancel is like pretty safe. BDC bite would be like the big call out, but it can still get baited. BDC and the jump is like fairly safe there. Thrown. Yeah, this won't kill because the scaling on throw is pretty high in this game. Call out. Yeah. In this round, so I usually keep this open on my third monitor so I keep track where we're at. Nice catch. Nice chase down. ATP but no dice. I will say, as a side note, I'll write it down too and we'll talk about it. There's something to be said about learning. I mean, you can't always get one. I don't think Slayer can get one here, but we'll talk about it afterwards. There's something interesting to talk about when it comes to learning Slayer Oki in terms of like sacrificing immediate mix-up. Nice bite. That's gonna kill. Hurt. Also, be careful. I would say, like, again, like minor note. This isn't like a whole like thing to make something out of, but this will combo without the Roman cancel. Not into a big combo, but you can definitely get another K pile bunker there into sliding like them down the wall into like 2H, and you'll keep the meter for your next combo. I do think it's important to make note. Can't just panic R-seed, yeah. Mostly because Slayer's potential is so largely locked behind meter. Gonna get a knockdown. Recent Naoki. This situation's just tough. Caught low. Dead. Oh no. The will to live. Chip is a huge factor if you're not careful. Still trying to figure out how to put like 80% of matchups phase. That is most of the learning curve, yeah. Wow, dash through is crazy. I can't believe that worked. To punish. That's like chill. Eating regular firebolt's kind of chill. We're gonna talk about something else in this situation too. I'll make note of it because I gotta test it. I'm not like too positive, but I'm pretty sure I know how it works. We'll see. I'm pretty sure there might be like a better option you can pick there. Respecting the TP. scrambling. Dash 3 works out. I'll check 2 more games. Knockdown. Dash 3 gets CP. No true punish is rough there. No like full on punish hurts. It's a little high up, yeah. That was a good adjustment with 5H. It's pretty chill. This is one of those situations we'll come back to. I think it's important. The on contact situation. You're honestly surprised VT didn't clip you on the other side. It's probably just because it took so long to cross up, honestly. Sketch, crosswise, good first point, that's guaranteed. I would just hold it and get a punish. Yeah, like, this is more like general advice and no specific point in mind, but when you find that somebody has reached the point where they're just like fishing, I would just be patient. If people are willing to represent moves that are dangerous if you block them, like if you just block them, I usually just let them do whatever they want. A little late on the confirm. Probably jump out, yeah. Situations like this are tricky because it's like, if the 5k misses then you get kind of screwed. But that has a lot to do with understanding the spacing that you can get away with 5k. I think 2k might reach there. Caught on the JH. Stuff. We'll talk about some Kai burst points too, I guess. I'll be like the first thing I cover because it's really tangible. Like to go over. He works out. Looks fine to smart. Bye. Oh, that rollback is brutal. I would be feeling some type of way about that rollback. This is too high to get good OP. Yeah, or like anything really. Yeah, so like these moments are kind of the ones I'm talking about where it's like I would probably just wait a little bit and let them do it on stuff like that. Or if they're focused on covering grounded options and you have to escape via the air. That's like a really big thing to learn to incorporate. Watch one more. Ew, hitting backwards is nasty. This is one of those like smokes and mirrors moments. If they do this Oki, Slayer's one of the few characters that can hold his backdash and just get out. Not everybody has the distance that can go that far. Like, it's character specific, but Slayer can backdash out of that. Some of the mid-screen grinder Oki has to be really deep for you to get away with it. Yeah, like this is actually a good example of like, it might not feel like it, but you'll get away with a lot of this. And we'll also cover why this isn't as dangerous as you think to do. Like, to sense that somebody just keeps dashing in on the ground and dashing in on the ground. Once you build certain distance, you can probably just do this. There's only like a handful of things in the game that'll really punish you for it. Damn, Helter trade there's crazy. I thought it was more plus than that. I think seeing what people are covering and focusing on corner pressure is good. Goes back to some of the maze stuff, pretty much, yeah. Yeah. A big part of it is understanding people can't cover as much as you think with as dangerous as like the options that you might expect. Yeah, we're definitely gonna check that one thing I'm curious about. Yeah, and we're definitely also gonna talk about the other one. Oh, so this is like a minor. Oh, yeah, it is worth noting. I'm pretty sure this is like the case with a couple of them. Your punish on airborne opponents is better than your punish on grounded opponents if they're non-counter hit. It's not even the drop, by the way, that I'm like talking about. The drop is rough, but I was actually gonna say that you might not expect it, but like these situations, you should actually just press // and do an air string instead. You'll do more damage. They're better punishes for Slayer because you don't have a counter hit state to work with anyway. So you press / here and you pick them up airborne. Because see, you're already actionable. Yeah. If you're in a position to get a punish like that, it's worth going for. But we're gonna talk about like a couple of things like that. This can kill if you get the pickup. Yeah. It was gonna be close though, honestly. It might have not killed with that route. Cup it low. Also, another situation of like, well, this one actually is. This one is like really deep inside. You can't backdash that. But like this next one probably won't be. I don't know. Damn, Slayer's so wide. Oh, he could have killed off that. Yeah. Oh, we'll talk about some stuff. There is like a lot going on there, but I have an idea on some of the stuff that's like probably more immediately important. There is something I want to check actually really quick. I'm not positive, but I'm like pretty sure if you press 2P as Slayer, if you press 5H, I think it's like either like the same or better as pressing 2H. Like if somebody gets like hit and like mashes immediately, it might be that, or it might be, I wonder, honestly, you might actually just send it on this. Oops. Does that work now? Yeah. So like they're getting like, they're like actually just mashing in this situation, which they like seemingly were a lot. I think sending it on Mappa might be better. Nah, 2H is fine, I guess. In my head, I was thinking you might actually just be able to get away with doing this. Maybe not. I'm not gonna spend like too long on this, but I know there's definitely like ways for Slayer to like not let people mash there. 5H is usually what I'm scared of, but I guess then again I don't immediately mash the moment that happens. Because the way I look at it is if somebody's mashing there as Slayer, you probably get away with a lot potentially, depending on the situation. I do think a big part of it is you probably have to push yourself out a little further before you do stuff like this. That's probably what I would do actually, yeah. I would do something like this. I don't know if this is the best option, but this definitely came up a lot of times. I think it's worth like having an idea of what you'll do to people like in the situation. Alright, so like if he's like mashing, you check with 5k, right? Because the idea is you should be like in a good situation to do that on hit, I'm pretty sure. Let me look at the frame data real quick, just double check. But I want to say that probably 5k actually. And then again, the thing about Mappa, dealing with some matches like that felt pretty weak. That's good to think about. Yeah. The thing I was gonna say is that it's also a lot about like you can just do that K input into Mappa a lot of the times versus a lot of people. If they haven't shown that they can actually instant block correctly, then it's definitely worth considering. Let me turn the hitbox really on. Wait, is this the right one? No, this is the patcher. Where's the there's the actual executable. You won't see it, but I'm only looking at it. I'll show it if the hitboxes matter, but I'm more interested in the frame data of Slayer 2P on hit. Yeah, you're +3 on hit, right? So like Slayer's punch is weird because it doesn't lead to anything, but you're plus on hit. It's a lot like if you had just pressed this and then you press that anyway, right? Like you're just plus in that situation. So a lot of it is like, and especially because you could press so many of them, right? Like you could absolutely like do this, and if they're just mashing, so like, let me see if I can get it. I can't even get my button. It's like how, right? So like you'll get this hit, is the idea. And then similar to before, if you do this on hit, What is it? You're -1 is what it is. Damn, you're minus there? I feel like that's not right. I could have sworn this is like dead even, but maybe it's minus? I guess it was a crouch thing the whole time. Yeah, it was a crouch thing. That's interesting. Don't worry about this too much. But my point is more, if they're going to do this, like if they're going to mash her all the time, probably learn to time like this follow-up to get something off of it, right? And you can generally just send it on Mappa. The thing is I don't usually run into too many people that immediately mash here. But I would imagine the idea is like if they're gonna immediately mash, then you can 100% just send it. And if you get the hit, right, then it's like a very easy hit confirm, like that. And Slayer's all about payoff, right? But even just the regular K-Mappa is not so bad. If you're very worried about what's gonna happen afterwards, then you can do what Daemendo does. Daemendo's a big fan of this. If he's not sure if they're gonna block it or not, he'll do this. Because P-Mappa is always safe. Like, always. It doesn't matter what they do. Even if I were to instant block this, he's not any closer. Like, I won't get it punished with anything. Right? But the trade-off is that P-Mappa goes both ways. You also don't get anything, really, off of it. Because the distance is so bad. Like, I don't even think you can crosswise, really, to get a pickup. There probably is a way to combo off of that, but the point is more like that's not why you pick it. Right? But if you are scared to send it on the K-Mappa on the frame trap, which would be like, do that, then you can always P-Mappa, and it's about the same. It's just, you're playing it safer. But I do think that is worth considering. When you're learning to use 2P into 5K versus immediate mashers is something I would make note of. And then if you're wondering what to do off of it, you can either, honestly, you can IAD too. You could instant air dash off 5K and it probably wouldn't be too bad. But I would say if they're letting you get the frame trap, you might as well fish for it. The other thing I was going to say is there weren't like too many situations where neutral came up. But what I was going to say is like, I think of Kai as one of those characters where like if he's ever pressing this button a lot, it's something you can like try to dodge, if that makes sense. Because the thing is, he wants to use it like at this range where it's at its tip. So if you do stuff like this, it can be like kind of obnoxious for Kai. If you air dash like right in this moment. And the way I look at it is like if he starts to do stuff like this, which is what you're scared of, like run up to H, then he's kind of approaching you not with far slash anymore. So I would say that you're good to press your buttons most likely, or do stuff like Dandy again, and it might pay off a little bit more. There's a lot that goes into the neutral in this matchup because 2D is so good, 2H is so good, far slash is so good, even 2S is alright. It's not easy for Slayer. Like there's definitely no like easy way to get around. Like this button is crazy. This button like as a run up is so good versus Slayer. But on paper, like if you were to run up and press 2D, like as long as Slayer presses this on the way in, I think he might win. But I might be tripping. It might just be like air dash or nothing. Because I think I want to say like most of the time this is what got me. When I played as Kai in this matchup, a lot of air dashing helped with dealing with these normals. Maybe that hitbox is really weird on that. Like, I know JH forced a lot of my attention, is the way I would put it. I think at best what you're usually looking for when you're fighting a character like Kai in neutral, Slayer, is like, on paper, if he guesses what you're doing, he'll probably just win, right? Via something that looks like this big-ass normal, right? That I think it's a lot about honing in on like what you'd rather do. I also think the distance that you stand is farther than usual because far slash exists, because his normals are so good. Normally I would say like Slayer's cool with getting about this close to a lot of the characters in the game, but you don't want to do that because this is like basically right in your face. That it's almost like the opposite of what I would think. I would think you want to be here so that at least all the stuff he wants to do is not in range even if he moves forward. And he's either focusing on anti-airing you on reaction if you were to do something like this, or he's focused on grounded stuff and trying to stuff you from doing this. But even like a full forward dash puts you in the exact range to make contact here. Right. And again, I usually think of it as like he can't cover everything at once. This is probably the closest it gets. This button pays bills, man. Button is so gross. Like, if I had to say, like, to me that button is like the end all for Slayer. That shit puts in so much work versus Slayer. Cause he just does this, or he just does this. That I would be most scared of probably 2H as Slayer, because at least the other ones like 2D you can air dash if it happens as it's happening, right? Same with Farslash. They're like fireballs almost, where it's like if you catch him the moment he does them, you'll get him. But as far as 2H goes, I think the only way to get around it is to realize it only covers this space in front of him, so you get close enough, or you catch him whiffing it, and then you try to make contact. Right? In other words, like if you see this, well, that's a little too early. If you see like this, and you do that, and you make contact, because 2H also has a lot of landing lag, right? Or not landing lag. It has a lot of just like lag. Like look how long this move takes to finish in its entirety, right? In other words, like there are moments where like if I flip the rolls, you'll see. I should switch them anyway, actually, because I think I'm. Yeah, I think I need them flipped anyway, basically. Here we'll do. Well, I guess we'll cover one last thing, but I don't think it came up as much in this matchup, if I'm being honest, which is kind of why I'm like, nah, it's probably not that big a deal. What I was gonna say is like when you do make contact like this, just learning the RPS of stuff like this is important, right? He's pretty good at shutting this down on hit, even. Like if he does this is pretty good at stopping both, and oftentimes will only like really lose to like P-pile bunker type stuff. But it also loses to this. Is it further than that? Hold on. There it is. Alright, so like if he does this, then he has to block again. On air backdash into air dash cancel for like or sorry, backdash into IAD for like forward at them generally is a good check on stuff like that. I've never really tried this, so that's kind. I wonder if this loses. No, see, so that is slow enough, so you don't have to worry about them really picking stuff like this too much. And this is also on block. I didn't even test it on hit. Yeah, on hit. That's still really fast. This shit's fucked up. Alright. I guess you would just have to like bait them out with K Dandy at something at that point. Something wider. Or actually I guess you would just let me see. I think did you really not? Let me see. Yeah, I guess the situation is a little tough versus Kai. Normally I would always tell Slayers to just make contact and it's not that big a deal. The tricky part about this is how necessary being able to do BDC bite is here versus people that have a good toolkit into. Normally doing Dandy step here is fine, right? You're slightly minus a Slayer, but it doesn't really matter a lot of the times. Let me see. Yeah, you're slightly minus here a lot of the time as Slayer, but it doesn't really matter. Because normally against a lot of the casts you would either like air dash back into like something forward, or you would just dandy step, right? You do backdash, air dash forward, or dandy step, and it'd give them a hard time. But Kai seems like he's pretty good versus it. You might be able to get away with dash through if they're mashing something like this, but he seems like 2P2H is pretty good. Again, this is all assuming you can't do BDC bite, but I usually don't like to make that assumption because this is like one of the harder things in the Slayer learning curve, is being able to introduce that. But that fixes that problem. People that mash will lose to BDC bite in that RPS situation, right? The problem is that it's trapped behind an executional thing. So I don't usually say that at the beginning. I will say, honestly though, I don't think many Kais are going to know about the 2H thing. You could probably still get away with doing like backdash through their normals that they're mashing and then air dash back in. But don't worry about it too much. it's not something that came that much anyway, and I don't think it's that good versus Kai all the time. That sometimes making contact just to make contact might not be the play versus Kai. It might not always be the play is the thing. Only if they're not good at checking the dandies, or if they're not like good at rotating this option in. Normally, I would say that that's like a good thing to look for as Slayer, though. A lot of characters have an awkward time there. The thing I was gonna say is, when you do make contact, you should consider learning something like this. So I'm gonna turn the reversal tool on, because I think this is important to cover. Is sometimes you just want to learn how to safe jump people. I know that sounds kind of silly, like on paper, it's like, well, yeah, but my point is more like, you don't actually have to RPS if you don't want to. Sometimes I do like point this out because people get kind of trapped in like this loop of like, well, I don't really want to deal with the reversal, but I have to deal with the reversal as my character, right? Like, when I do dandy whiff, like, I just have to deal with that shit. It's like, well, actually, you don't have to, depending on the knockdown. Let me see. Is it on recording one? Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, you had a couple moments where you got this hit, and it's like, if you do, I think it's just neutral jump if you're like close by like this. Yeah, I think you just hold up. I don't even think you have to time it. Yeah, see? The idea is now this person has to gamble with you in a different way. Right? I know that doesn't sound ideal, but my point is, I talk about this sometimes when it comes to people that will say like they dislike situations about something, and I tell them like, well, then just turn it into a different situation. Right? Like if you find it awkward to have to engage with RPS like this with them all the time, right? Especially because that's not counter hit state. So like, let's say you bait it in the middle of the screen, right? Let's say you do this. It's not counter hit state anyway. If that's your punish, I'm doing DP all day as Kai, right? But if you do this, right? And like now your punish turns into like a whole sequence. Oh. Let me see. Then like it's a different story, right? Right? You'll get, if you do like the actual air dash string route, you'll get probably close to like 30% of Kai's health. Right? Ah. Right? So my point is more like, if you get certain knockdowns on him, even in the corner, I think in the corners where you can do like air dash for the timing. Yeah. It doesn't really make a difference, I think, but I want to say like Demendo picks air dash sometimes. But yeah, you can just safe jump. You have tons of frame advantage as Slayer in these moments. So it's like you should consider safe jumping some more. It will get Kai players to react differently to these situations. There's also nothing that says you can't bait people in different ways, right? Like a lot of people will like, if you're in this situation and you were like, I'm gonna backdash to make it whip, you can do the same thing off of an air dash. If you're scared that he's gonna Roman cancel, you can just do this, right? But this is a good way to make it seem like, yeah, I can still force my turn and you can't represent DP as a way out. You can represent other options. You can blitz and you can backdash, but you can't DP out anymore. Right? And the idea is like, some people need that kind of thing in their toolkit. Like some people rely on being able to DP you. Not you as in like you specifically, but obviously more like a generalized, like that's just, if they can't deal with my DPs, I get away with it, right? I find that when you adjust little things like that, people might be more uncomfortable than before. And there's nothing that says that every now and then you can't just run regular dandy, you know, like this is also just good at baiting that as an option. Yeah, basically the idea is like, you boil this into they could either eat my safe jump or gamble versus my safe jump, but they can't super, right? And honestly, like there are other ways to do things. Like if you're worried about them blitzing, I don't have it recorded, but if you're worried about them blitzing, then you can jump and then air dash at the last second like that, and you'll still get a combo, right? You'll still run offense, but you'll bait tap blitz now if you do something like this. Whoa, you have to do that really early. Right, like that. And now you bait tap blitz too. Right? Now you bait backdash too. Right? The idea is like you're representing an option that they kind of have to consider, and then you could suddenly switch it up on them. That I honestly think could help a bit. You're gonna run into them RPSing in other ways, but you have a lot of control over that situation. Versus like when you just block on wake up as your mix up, it almost feels like you're giving them a lot of control in general. Like that's just usually how that kind of thing goes. I would say those are like the like super tangible things I would recommend. There are other things, and then don't forget, like you can go back to doing 6P in the corner because it's good reward in the corner, right? It's more just about like adjusting how you bait certain options at different parts of the screen. Yeah, I'm 180, huh? But does that you know clarify a couple things? That might have not been necessarily what you were going for, because you were mostly worried about like pacing and controlling pacing. But I find a lot of the projectile Oki is projectile Oki. You're just gonna get cooked by it, like for sure. In those situations, that once you get there, it is like not even like jokingly like, yeah, don't be there, don't be there. But as far as controlling the pacing goes, if Kai's running at you, then I would say he's got to do it with a lot of his grounded pokes, which I already kind of said, like, if you're worried about his grounded pokes, I would just try to go over them or go away from them. But most of the time, you'll never get through them as consistently as you think. You kind of have to go over them. And if he's anti-airing, at the very least, his anti-airs don't reach far. So if he's anti-airing, then you can start to approach him a little more on the ground with stuff like this. Yeah, the 2P thing will help you. A lot of controlling pacing, I'll say this, is to me a lot of what controlling pacing is representing enough things that scare your opponent that they have to slow down, is usually what I tell people that it like boils down into. If you can bait a DP for a lot of damage, people won't DP as frequently as they might otherwise. Right? That has a lot to do with controlling the pacing of a match, is like how hard people hurt on stuff like that. Oh my gosh, you have to let them fall like a lot for this. But I think that's like very, very, very underrated for helping control pacing. People will go at whatever pace they want if they think you can't punish things or control the pace enough. I also think being able to safe jump is something that'll hopefully give you some other ways of controlling the pacing. The tricky part about this, and this is like the last thing I'll really say, is just you know, give it time. It takes a while to get used to even just incorporating one new thing on Oki. Because sometimes you're so focused on getting the hit that you're gonna automatically do this before you even think about it, and you're gonna go, damn, I don't have time to safe jump anymore. When it's like in your head, you got to think like right away, like, oh, I want to safe jump for my punish, right? That you might find it a little trickier than you think to tell yourself to do it at the beginning. But yeah. Hopefully that gives you like a basis to start on. That's like mostly what stood out to me. It was just like, well, yeah, Melton did whatever. And then defensively, I didn't really cover it, but honestly, it's the same idea as before, I think, where if people are running up on you, then especially as Slayer, you can do backdash cancel and then jump. But even just jumping into getting out is like really underrated. This tool will get you out. Super jump into air dash forward, K footloose will get you out, and people have to wait to punish that kind of option. They can't do it when you push them out and then they run up for more offense, like this. Like if this dude's doing this and I push him out and I do, like once I see he's kind of out, I just do this without even paying attention to what he's doing, I'm out. I think what you were partially getting at was people sometimes just doing stuff and that's hard for you to keep up with, but killing them faster for doing wild stuff also means you have to guess less against them, more or less. Yeah. people doing whatever they want against you is generally speaking just like the name of the game. You can learn to mitigate it, but it all kind of varies. And the way I would put it is, I'm not trying to downplay learning how to survive ever, you know, because like sometimes it's easy to get that vibe from people. It's like, oh, like just learn to kill faster. But it's more just like a tragedy of a 2-player game. But it is to me, it's more like you only really need maybe a thing or two to consider on defense, and then a lot of the other stuff can be controlled via like your pressure structure for a lot of the characters, right? Like, even though this is like by no means like foolproof, you might as well like gamble on it sometimes. The difference to me is like you need to have a thing that you're gonna try that's tangible, that does beat some things, rather than what's the most appropriate response. Because like, yeah, if he's running up, then I would probably just do something like this. And that's like very solid value, but it's risky. It's risky because you don't know how people's offense works. There's nothing that says Kai can't do this instead and punish you for trying to play like that. Whoops. Oh my god. Yeah, like that. A big part of what's frustrating about kind of matchy risk reward play is that it makes it obvious your sequences are full of holes. Yeah, I mean the game is full of sequences. If anything, we could always just do like pretty much the next time we're at Gold Burst, we could always just talk about it. Mostly because I do think it takes like a longer sit down session. But I'm not opposed to doing it next time we have a sit-down session. It's also like way easier when you're right next to somebody having an actual conversation, which is what I usually just do these days. Like when Fiery was asking about how to fight biking or neutral, I was like, well, just walk me through your thought process, and I'll fill in all the gaps. Basically, is usually like how it goes. Or like that's a little bit more. Those things I think are less. Like fixed by a superficial tip or two. Usually you need somebody to walk you through the whole game plan, more or less. But they're also a lot more applicable and like long lasting than stuff like this. Thing about these VOD reviews is they're really good, but they're designed to only give you like 1 or 2 things to try or consider. They're not they won't reconstruct your entire game plan. You can't reconstruct someone's game plan in like 30 minutes. But yeah, as far as today's advice goes, it's like learn to safe jump. It'll get people to gamble differently and still give you control, because you'll realize the only thing that stops safe jumps are backdashes and blitzes, and those are a lot more susceptible to you overextending, right? If somebody's intimidated by your safe jump because you've been running it, they're not gonna assume that you're gonna do a delayed air dash and catch them for doing other things. In other words, you have the initiative still, right? It just doesn't feel like it, but you do have the initiative. You're presenting like less risk than they are when in that situation. It's different. And then 2p into 5k will help you versus real big mashers. Is something to definitely work around. Like I said, it's just tricky, especially in a matchup like that, because Kai specifically has really good Abare versus you. Usually contact is not too bad as Slayer, even if you can't do BDC bite. Not everybody has a button like 2H. Not everybody can mash something that covers like backdash into air dash afterwards the same way like Kai 2H can. Some people might, but definitely not as much as somebody like Kai. Yeah, Kai is a problem character for Slayer. Even me with like my washed up Kai, I was definitely like realizing that a bit. Alright. We'll give it a little bit longer than normal. I already messaged Avery because Avery's the 240 slot. So whenever he responds, we're good to go. Normally we would do the 5-minute timer, but I'll do like a 10-minute timer. Oh, you're here? That's cool. Because I only have 2 VOD reviews today. It's actually very chill today. There's not much about it. Alright, we'll go into it. Let me see. What page should you play at? How best to deal with scrolls in neutral? I will say at like before we get to it, and I'll analyze it, but how to best deal with scrolls in neutral might be one of the most frequent questions I get as answer. Everybody and their mother hates scrolls. And I always tell them, I'm like, yeah, man, that's like his thing. That's when he's at his best. Like, he's supposed to be annoying. Sometimes there's no like very solid answer to scrolls. So you have your work cut out for you. We'll watch like maybe 10 minutes or so. Right? Make contact. Bedman also has it a little tougher because your wake up timing off of face down. So kind of like a side note in case anybody didn't like catch it by now, but the 2 knockdowns in the game are actually like relatively consistent as long as they're not like this is why I was saying like there's a couple things that I have to check between like face up and face down. But generally speaking, when people end their combos, like a good combo, it's a face-up knockdown. If it's your character's B and B, it ends in like a face-up knockdown. That's like generally true, and I don't really ever see that not being the case. When you get quick knockdowns, when it's a sweep, when it's a move that knocks down like on grounded opponents very easily, right? Like Stun Dipper, Baiken Throw Konsogi, I'm trying to think of other ones. There's like a handful in the game. Even those special moves give face down knockdowns, right? That's usually the pattern between the two. That's usually how you can remember which one you're getting between the 2 knockdowns when you're fighting somebody, is whether or not you got the opening off of like a combo or like a sweep. Bedman has a slow face down, so every time you sweep him as answer, I get 2 scroll sets, not 1. Off of the extra time. So he can have it a little bit rougher than average because of that. Extend. These situations are tricky because they're like just true hit confirms. They're very easy to hit confirm situations. Yeah, and then we'll talk about running Oki on Bedman on answer a little bit too. We'll pretty much cover like you can interact with scroll if you want to, or not scroll with parry if you want to, or you can hard bait it in some situations. It just depends. It is a little awkward for Bedman the same way it is for other characters, because it's not like the type of thought process he usually goes through when running Oki on somebody. He does have to adjust it, but on paper, like, he should be able to do it like, pretty much just as well as anybody else. Pressure. Yeah, burst safe route. Oh, I didn't cover the Kai burst points. My bad. I was gonna tell you, anytime Kai DPs you, it's usually like pretty okay to burst it after it hits you. It's hype based, but it's like very forgiving. I'll actually write that down this time. I try to make a note of teaching burst points because they're pretty teachable. We'll go over the answer ones a bit. But yeah, Stun Dipper and DP are very burstable on Kai. So is 6K if he picks CL. But it's hard to get the reaction on time, but you can do it. Oh yeah, JP's the pickup. Nice interrupt. Yeah, and then good 6P usually means it is tough to just try dash for free on answer. You can still bait it the same way you bait the other ones, but it's a lot harder. Knockdown, but scrolls there. Yeah. This honestly kills, I think, right? Yeah. A lot. Oh, this is something I want to check too, actually, that I've been meaning to, but I don't really lab versus my own character, but there was one thing I considered that Bedman might be able to do versus skipping turns. There's also something I'll cover that I don't think I see you do it as much. I'll see it in the next game or two if I see it. It's a pretty solid tool as Bedman in general. Oh, is that all we played? Oh shit, that was like really brief. Oh shit. Here, I'll redo them. We'll watch like one more. I didn't realize it was so short. When it was my stream, I honestly just assumed it was like a bajillion games. I didn't realize it was like relatively short. Or I guess, no, we don't really have to watch too much more. I feel like I got a lot of what I needed out of it. It's fine. We'll just transition. I was just like jump scared by the fact that it was my stream and it wasn't. Oh, it was Rev Tuesday. I didn't realize that's what it was. Okay. I was very confused when it was a small amount of games. Alright. We'll cover a couple things. I forgot to do it on the last one, so I'll do it real quick with this one. Answer burst points are... Don't let people trick you and tell you that you're supposed to burst answer on his 6K when you're grounded. That is true sometimes, but it depends on the hit actually. It used to be, I guess, considered like the burst point versus answer, but depending on your character, he can do a pickup that's burst safe. Right, like if I do something like this, it's burst safe. Oops, as an extra hit. This pickup is burst safe. You've probably seen me do it before. The idea is that you can do this to some of the characters in the cast. It depends on their like character models. I want to say you can do it on all the midweights, and you should be able to do it on Bedman too, but he's a little trickier than the others. But the idea is you'll see me do this and then pick up into the confirm. Oh. Oh, that link is so tight on Bedman. Alright. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. Maybe it is worth checking here. I'll have to check it. Usually, I don't advise people to burst on this hit versus answer, but Bedman might be able to get away with it. I could have sworn you could do it on him, but he might actually not be a character you can do that combo versus. If you see answers do this combo, I would probably just tech out. That means you probably can just burst on this hit a lot. And then Bedman or answer players will have to do a fake combo, something that doesn't knock down. This isn't true for everybody, which is why I say like you have to be careful about it. Because I know on midweights you always bait it versus everybody but answer. But yeah, that means you can usually burst this hit if you're on the ground. If you're in the air, that might not work. If you are on the ground when you get launched, it might work. It will work. So something like this, for example, is like really common. Ah, what the heck? Oh, there it is. Yeah. So like this hit, for example, is like very classic, right? It's like you can burst that hit and get away with it. Also, if you are up here in the air combo part of his strings. It's not always true, but it is true a lot of the time, like most of the time. When you see jump heavy up here, in other words, like this move with the shuriken, you can burst when that is hitting you. This is always the move answer picks before he dashes at you. Sometimes he picks JD, but it's the same thing basically. Most of the time you will see jump heavy like that, and it'll look kind of like this when you get the burst. Right, like he'll dash into your burst. Something people accidentally do a lot versus him is they'll burst the button that goes into JP. If he goes into his JP instead like this, it tends to just be burst safe on hit. It looks like this a lot of the times versus people. This is this bait. You probably see it like all the time versus answer. And then he blocks, and then he does a whole combo, right? That is because his jump punch is burst safe on strings. So he'll always reverse Gatling into it and then get it. Generally, jump heavy is burstable. The launch is sometimes not advisable as a burst. Right? The launch is also spooky because sometimes he can do an option select using jump H like this. Right? In other words, it would combo because jump heavy. It would combo into the hit. Ah. Right, it would combo into the hit, and then I would do my combo, right? That's that. Oh, the part where he like picks up into the combo is relatively burst safe, depending on how answer does the combo. You want to be very careful how you burst answer, right? In other words, like for Bedman, it seems like the 6K ground thing, the grounded 6K is solid. You don't really want to burst like right here when he's picking up because he can make it burst safe potentially, right? By picking like jump heavy immediately. Similarly, if you wait, then he can pick jump punch and bait here, right? So waiting until he does his air jump heavy is usually what you wait for. And if you can learn to react to it, he can't really stop you from bursting it unless it's a route that dodges it naturally, which sometimes those exist. That's why I say like just be careful. Some angles will bait burst. Like if you're above him but he can hit you horizontally, it'll bait your burst and stuff. The other one is also just at the end of his combos is usually also safe. In other words, like he'll do a whole combo, he'll do doom, he'll pick up. And then at the very end, when he's like rising up into you, when he's about, not when he does this. If you do it when he does this, you won't get it. It's as he's dashing into you for the last one, you burst and you'll burst it. But that's the end of the combo. So, you know, it just varies for some people. Like you don't really want to burst the end of somebody's combo. But if you burst like as this is dashing into you, it's also essentially guaranteed. Those are like key answer burst points. They're nice to keep in mind because especially if he baits you during the middle of an air combo, answer does a lot of damage. Answer has very good meterless punishes on certain situations. Like if he has a scroll out still when you burst and it's baited, he can get like one of his best starters essentially, and he'll do like 30% of your health for free. If it gets baited without scrolls around, it's not too bad. It depends. As far as how you should play versus scrolls, I think generally, so I want to cover like one thing. I don't think I see you do it that much, but I know like KB Nova has a tendency to do this. I think it's pretty good. There's a difference between doing jump fireball and doing super jump fireball, and a lot of it has to do with the dead zone on like where you would get around it. So like this fireball, and like you can stop me if you actually do this, but I don't think I see you do this much. I feel like I see you do a lot of regular jump task A. But the thing about regular jump task A is like people can go over it like that, and it creates kind of like this weird gap sometimes. People can't really run through it like this depending on their character, but a lot of characters can jump over it like that, and mitigate a lot of the risk involved in like engaging with it. But if you pick something like this, a lot of characters cannot jump into it. They actually can do the opposite. They can run through it like this, but they can't jump at you, right? And you might think like, well, why is this good? Because you do the other part, right? In other words, like you'll do something like this as Bedman. You'll throw this, and then you'll do that. So with them together, when they run forward, they run into jump S like this, right? You cover the dead zone on the ball. And if people aren't ready or don't know how to engage with this, basically they block this, you'll probably jump around now. You struggle to play covering the run instead of the air. Yeah, I could see it. It's a preference thing. I think in this matchup, it's kind of a big deal more than it is in others. Like, it's not as big a deal. It's just a get better thing. Well, hear me out. It is a preference thing, because I used to play Gavin a lot, and Gavin tends to just cover the ground too, mostly with task A, and not really the air as much. But I think it depends on matchup to a degree. Some matchups are fine. Like, you can fight Kai with, like, a lower angle fireball, and it's not going to make a big difference because Kai's not the type to run at you really fast, right? But the problem is, if you're playing to cover the air versus a character like Answer, that's not going to work out very well for you on average because of his mobility, right? Turn my AC on, it's kind of warm. Right, like his mobility makes it so that you can't really get away with that, which is why, and he's the opposite. His grounded approaches are kind of whatever. Like, as far as running on the ground, it's actually not that big a deal. Answer most of the time performs aerial approaches, even on the ground, right? Like, he's airborne when he does this. So he always just like doesn't really use his legs to get around. The big thing about this setup is also, I think this one is good to practice because it does a good job of setting you up to do offense with Bedman. It's like a personal preference thing. There is no right answer to this, but the way I look at it is like, if you do this and people have to respect jump S, right? Like, they see you and they have to respect jump S. A lot of the times you'll immediately make contact and just try dash again. It's been a while. Give me a second. It's been a while since I did Bedman stuff. There we go. So like, this kind of sequence generally is like good at making contact. Oh my god, it ruins it when I make contact. Alright. Oh, come on, dude. Throw me a bone. It's good for setting up tri-dashes because pretty much it's like you throw the ball probably misses unless they jump at you. You do jump S, which owns all the space in front where the dead zone is, and unless people are willing to always just fish for 6p, which is not necessarily guaranteed because you can hold onto your dash for a while, so people don't know when you'll do your tri-dash on the way down. You do that, and then essentially you don't even care about, like, the initial hit doesn't matter, if that makes sense. It's just about making contact. And then as soon as it makes contact with jump S, you immediately try dash again. And by that time, more or less, the ball will cover you jumping again, if you do it correctly. It's a pretty nice thing to incorporate if you ever want to be aggressive as a Bedman. Again, it's a personal preference thing, but I do think it matters a little bit more in matchups like this because you want to be a little more aggressive versus Answer. Answer is a character that wants to get his scrolls out and doesn't care when you give him space, right? If your game plan is to do something like this and then hold space, I will always eat these. Like, I'll either block it or eat the hit. It doesn't matter because I'm not counter hit state. And once I get all of these out, it doesn't matter if you want to play on the floor. There's too many angles for me to cover, right? The time it takes you to set up sort of like a zoning wall is a really good opportunity for Answer to just get all his scrolls out and about, right? That's why I say, like, as far as preference goes, like, it's fine in some matchups if you would rather play defensive versus aggressive, but I think usually Answer incentivizes you to play aggressive because you don't want him to just get free scroll sets and you don't want him to get to use them as easily, right? If I was to react to a setup like this as Answer, it'd be awkward because I would have to like summon a scroll and then have to deal with the ball coming back as you're getting ready to try dash again, right? If I was to like, if you go back and you watch, I think it was like a couple days ago actually, I played KV Nova on stream with Answer for like an hour or something like that. And basically all the rounds I get steamrolled, Okazeme aside, like he's just on top of me a lot. He's just representing a lot of tri-dashes, and he doesn't let me get... What's up, Mad Hatter? He doesn't let me get a lot of scrolls up, period, right? Which is, again, surprise, surprise, the answer is, like, don't be there. But if he does get a lot of scrolls versus you, I think a lot of it is... We'll cover some frame data stuff, because there is one thing I want to take a look at real quick. Yeah, so this is even. This is one of the situations I'm like curious about. I wonder how I would get this. I guess I would record as answered, but something a lot of people don't know is these dashes, whenever he does something like this to you, these are even on block when they're from high up. Answer's a little annoying because his frame data depends on how he does it. If he does the low one to you like this, he's +5, right? But if he does the high one, right? So like these are +5, but if he does this one to you, he's at best like +1 sometimes. But a lot of the times he tends to be like 0, especially if he picks them from like high up. Like when he does this one, he's like +1. But if he's ever like higher up at all like this, he's actually just even. Like this is even on block. And that's regular block. If you ever IB them, he's just minus, right? It doesn't matter as much for some characters, but Bedman has a 4-frame 2P, right? Or is it just, yeah, right? Yeah, it's 4-framer, right? No, it's 5, it's 5, it's 5, my bad. His 2P, is it 5? Yeah. It's Kumu's got the 4-framer. Either way, backdashing, blitzing, and sometimes mashing, but if you have the 5-framer, it might not be as consistent. You would probably have to instant block to get it. Let me see. There it is. It varies, but I do know that like a lot of answer skipping neutral is centered around that with people. It's usually people block that. So you'll see some situation kind of like this, basically. He'll press his jab. If you ever get hit, it's really like jarring because it just looks really weird when everything's happening. But there's always a gap here. It's just really hard to like get good usage out of it. But see, there's like always a gap here. Let me not move so this works. Right. I wonder if you can 6P here. Yeah, you can 6P there. This is a little smokes and mirrors a bit at times. Answer has different ways of playing around this. This is not like a, oh, I can always just 6P. But he kind of doesn't deserve to always have his offense just go forever from here a lot of the times. It's just really jarring because it's hard to react in time to these hits. But see, there's always like ways to sneak out once he makes contact. Those aren't actually like true. And if you ever actually instant block them, then he just isn't like he isn't in a position to press a button versus you. You can definitely instant block and then 2P and you would win the interaction. But again, like it's hard to instant block a guy that's moving around as fast as he is. So I'll never usually tell people like, oh, just IB it. Like it's just IB it and it's like his turn's over. You know? But see, like a lot of the times you can instant block and deny like some of his frame advantage. I think if you do it fast enough, you should be able to go first. These don't have a lot of yeah, see, they don't have a lot of like hit stop on them, which is why it's like a little funky to react in time, because they have like no hit stop on purpose. It's so that people can't react to answer sequences. But that is a little more interactive than you think. Again, a lot of the times, especially if you're covering the ground with task A or your 6Ps or whatever, he's gonna sneak up on you with these like that. He's always making his contact off that. Like most of the time, I bet if we go back, I'm probably making contact off those. Sometimes it's off the horizontal ones on the ground like this, and those are a lot more dangerous. But a lot of times, just keep in mind the higher angled ones. I think tempo-wise, if you're asking me, you should try to be aggressive versus answer, but if it's out of your comfort zone, it's just hard to do that on the fly. I will say, as far as like gimmicks that get past zoning, this is one of the most notable. So like this, if you're not in the air, is one of those things you want to be more cognizant of. So I'll show you, like, this is one of those where it's like, if you throw this and you see the flash, a lot of the times you can just kind of wait around for the flash, if that makes sense. And depends. I would, if I was Bedman, I would probably still just blitz. A lot of people can blitz this. You can 6P it like if you're ready, but you have to do it very far in advance. A lot of the times blitzing on the flash is easier, but the parry tracks to you. That's how it works. When it's on the scroll, it tracks to you. So when he does regular parries, like just without having touched the scroll, they just start wherever he was. But if they're on the actual if they're on the actual whoops, they're on the scroll, they go to you, is how they work. Just don't get caught off guard by this. I do this a lot to Bedmans too. The frame data again is different, which is why it can get like very annoying in these situations. because you have to keep track of like how he's making contact, and I find that gives people a lot of trouble as oh wait, let's do it with this one. I don't want him to cling to the scroll, so I think this should work. Yeah, this should be fine. Oh. I'm like very stubborn about changing back. Yeah, if he hits you, he's even on block. Even if you just block this, then he is at disadvantage, right? In other words, like, let's say I do this and I hold back, I'm +1. Parries have the same animation and different frame data as airborne stomps. A lot of it is just learning what he does off of the animation. You know, like if it comes from a parry, then you learn how to challenge afterwards. If it's a parry and you block it, then you can press a button. He's minus. He's pretty much always minus if you regular block it standing. Unless you're really short, he's pretty much always -1 at least. But again, it's different frame data. Like if I block that as Bedman, I can press a button, right? And he has to do something like backdash or parry again, or maybe jump and hope that he doesn't get caught by the button, which can happen. But he shouldn't really get to do what a lot of answer players do, which is parry and then jab. Like they make contact and then they start their turn. They shouldn't really get to do that versus a lot of the zoning that Bedman does with task A like this. You should always just be ready to take your turn back here. Again, it's a little funky to learn the hit stop on stomp. It's not as much as you think. But usually you should get away with, he shouldn't get away with it. As far as, I mean, I will cover it because I think it's important, but as far as dealing with scrolls defensively, if you've ended up like in a really bad situation, let's say like this, these situations are tough because depending on your character, you don't have like super crazy options. Bedman, I don't think is one of the characters that can 6p this. Yeah, his 6p is like not fast enough, and like it just depends. It's really weird teaching people answer defense, so I don't usually start with it. I don't cover it like in huge depth because, for example, I'll show it really quick. You can 6p it if it's from like farther out like this. Right, so like if I was at like a further range when I blocked 6H, sometimes you can just 6p it. So. Actually, let's do 5H. 5H is a better example, because 5H is actually like, a lot of characters can 6p this. But it depends. That's why it's just like tricky to teach people. I think his hurtbox might be too high to get a consistent 6p versus this. Yeah, see, so it trades. Some people beat that. Some people don't. You might be able to 2p it, I guess. Let's see, trade. So it depends, and it's all distance based. The further you are, like, the higher your chances are. Sometimes answer makes contact from really far, like this, and you can press something like your 6p or something. It's hard to learn the frame data consistently if you're not an answer player. What I will say is in the corner, they're a little bit more universal, because the scrolls are always at the same distance, right? They're always in the little square shape. So it's like you can learn a lot of the level 1 stuff, right? Which is like off of 6H, there is a gap. Even naturally, there should be a gap. A lot of his strings have gaps, but they're all frame traps. But they have gaps for stuff like Blitz, right? Blitz, sometimes you can super, but it depends. Because if he catches you while he can still parry, Bedman's super isn't 0 after the flash, so the answer player can mash super and still parry it. So even super is like very dicey. A lot of the times, if you're gonna pick something, it kind of has to be Blitz's Bedman, which is scary. That is why it's so scary to block these, because like you can't really jump out of these a lot of the times, but you can opt for like blitzes, right? Consecutive dashes always have a gap that you can blitz, no matter how he does them. If he does dash into dash with nothing in between, even on regular block, there is always a gap. The thing I was gonna say is like Bedman armor is dicey too, but it'll work sometimes. Again, the big problem is like answer frame data is a little dynamic. It depends on where he made contact, but something like IB on 6H into 6-6 is probably like reasonably fine like this, and you'll probably get the dash out. Again, the tricky part is answer is still actionable, so I don't know how much that's actually gonna help you. Because answer, if he just mashes on dust, they all track. I actually have been meaning to do this in the matchup. I don't do it quite enough. But you can definitely do stuff like this. Oh, a little close. Oh. Damn, Bedman wakes up really slow. Oh. Let's just do it like this. This is easier. Dude, no way. Man, it's so slow to wake up. Alright. Let me record it with like the thing I'm talking about real quick. Alright, so like the tricky part is if he does something like this, it will start to chase you down anyway. If you press dust with answer and no direction, scroll dashes towards your opponent. It just tracks. A lot of people don't know that. So like I'm not pressing a direction for these, but they will track to the opponent. So even if you counter, it can be a little scary because these aren't directional based sometimes if the answer player just presses dust. But 6-6 is alright. It depends. It's a lot about learning where the gaps are. Button into scroll dash generally has a gap that is a frame trap, so don't press a button, you know? But you can maybe dash those. You can dash consecutive scroll dashes if you know which direction you have to dash, obviously. And you can dash like contact into buttons, stuff like that. You can also do anytime he does like 2S, as long as he's not doing cardwire C, dash or back dash are probably okay. Those tend to be the spots where he frame traps anyway. So a lot of the times you would get your dash through there, or you would get your dash backwards like that. Right, and they're both like relatively solid spots. Cardwire C has a tendency to kind of like punish you for playing like that sometimes though, because you'll get caught during your dash startup like that. So the risk reward is kind of immediate. That's like most of the superficial stuff. Is there anything like specific you have in mind that you like really don't get about how answer works? Oh, I didn't cover the parry. That will be the last thing. I'll go over the parry since we don't have anybody else today anyway. Corner you're not too worried about? Okay. Stopping him from setting up, you have to be more aggressive, just generally speaking, because the thing that makes it hard to stop him for Bedman is that scrolls are not counter hit state. So for example, no matter what I do to him, these are always regular hits. I will never get counter hit seismo hits. See? So normally I like Bedman can opt for something like this, and then right? But that's why I say like, yeah, there's no, as far as stopping him from setting up, my general advice is you have to hang out like at least this close to answer. You have to be at least like, you have to be like this distance versus him. Once you're about this far, answer is not scared to set scrolls anymore because nothing you can do from this distance is scary anymore. You can seismo and that's it. But even if you were to like try dash at me, it doesn't reach me anymore. See? So I would say if you want like a metric, don't be this far from answer as much as you can help it. Try to be like this close to answer. Again, that's kind of why stuff like this is so helpful. Because if you're like, well, what do I do in this distance? Super jump toss is pretty alright. Super jump toss is alright, or just do it using yourself like this. If you're scared of his 6P, then you land and you seismo. That's the generic like Bedman RPS, right? So it's either you overextend like this, or you hover in this distance and you go down and you seismo that time. So because if he presses 6P, you will counter hit it, right? And that is sort of how you get the respect needed for that. And even if he doesn't, you can always just like buffer the jump and go into the exact same situation again. It's a very like common thing like KB Nova specifically does a lot. Where he'll use Seismo like in that spot and then just kind of like buffer his jump so that if it counter hits, he'll do the pickup. Like he'll just do this and then he'll get the pickup. And if it regular hits, right? So we'll set it to random. And I'm no Bedman player, but like you'll see me dash forward at least if I get it. Right, and then you dash forward. And don't get it, don't dash forward. Don't get it, don't dash forward. Get it, and then you dash into it. You know, it's like, this is usually how, damn, you can go really high up with that. Yeah. The idea is that nothing necessarily changes, but as long as you're still fishing for the anti-air hit, you can definitely just kind of like sit on this until you get the hit you want. Right? And then eventually they'll respect you enough that you'll get try dash in with that's weird, it's horizontal there. With that, right? You can usually dash in with K to get like real mix-ups, S to just try to smack them in the face, but at the cost of maybe not getting like a mix-up, just more pressure. Or you bait anti-air and get a combo. That is sort of the way that you would play versus, say, answer to not let him get scrolls all the time. You have to hang out at least this close. You're not in the range of my pokes, but if I was to commit to this, the moment that you try dash, you get an actual punish, you know? Like, you get an actual punish that would lead to something. Even if I was doing nothing, you would get a knockdown, right? It wouldn't just be you smacking me for 10 damage. That distance is important. And know that my goal is to not let you have that distance. I'm never going to just let you have that. But, you know, you want to hang out at least that close. Once you panic and run away this far, he's going to get all his scrolls up. And that's something that you have to consider. The last thing I'll talk about is answer parry. Like, for running Oki on it. I'll usually just, like, run through people a lot of, like, the same stuff. So, this parry is minus when you block it. Like, answer is minus. It just depends on, like... let me see. It just depends on how minus. Like, he's -2 there. He's not even -1. He hits you early enough that he's -2. So he should not get to press a button after this, right? If you knock answer down like this, and you do a safe jump, right? Like that, and he opts for parry. Let me see. I think that's close enough. Is that close enough to be a reversal? No. Hold on, I have the tool open. We'll just set it real quick. Let's say answer parry. And we'll just show it. Basically, a lot of the times I usually just tell people, like, if it's just him parrying with nothing else, like if there's no scrolls involved and you get one of these, and he does this, just block it and take your turn back. Like, nothing really changes too drastically from, like, if you had... just like block the DP or something. It's really fast, so I find a lot of people find that really jarring. Yeah, it's still minus. He's not like punishable, and I think that's what is really like jarring for people. But you can still just safe jump him. And if you block it, then you're good. Oh my god, Bedman's so awkward. Yeah, so if you safe jump like that, and then he'll have to backdash, or he'll have to do some of the other options you're used to. Same with if you run task A or task B. Like if you task B replay him and he does parry and you block it, it's the same thing. Like, he's still just minus. The tricky parts are when he has a scroll around. You can also just go low, by the way. If you were to knock him down like this and you pick 2K as the meaty, it doesn't hit him. So you can just do this, and then he lands in a grounded counter hit state. So you could even, like, you could in theory like do a very nasty punish like that with bet slam. Ugh. Was it 6p close slash bet slam? Oh, it's just 6p bet slam from that distance. It just depends. It really just depends what you want to do. The tricky part is if he has a scroll around, there are some things to consider. If answer has one of these around, oh whoops. Oh, did I redo it on accident? Fuck. Hold on. Alright, I think it's fixed. I think you just have to re-enable it and it like sets the new recording. Yeah. So if answer has a scroll around, it's a little different. Just because when you knock him down now, if you make contact with him, he touches the scroll. So like if I knock him down, I do this, he touches the scroll and I can't force him to block anymore. Or I can't force him to do the stomp anymore. Does that make sense? So in those situations, you kind of want to be mindful of it and then try to assume he'll parry. And you'll do the low, right? He still can't get to them if you don't trigger the parry, right? In other words, if he does this... wait, what? I thought I set this to be... Okay. So, like, if he does this... and you opt to do that, then he'll still get baited, right? He's looking for you to touch him so that he can go to the scrolls. Man, that's super trippy when it's like frame 1. Like that, right? Just don't let him have it. If you ever see scrolls above answer, try not to meaty him, usually. Try to, like, do an empty low. If you have task A or task B or whatever's meetying him, then just prepare for him to go to the scroll. Like, you just kind of have to make that assumption. I think you can 6P it if you're a Bedman. But I'm not, like, positive. Yeah, because he has invul when he touches the scrolls. So it's a little funky. You might have to, like, workshop it a bit. But know that if the scroll's above him, he's probably going to go for it. If there's a scroll right on top of him, like this, then the way it works is, if there's one right here, if he presses parry, he automatically touches that scroll. Once he touches that scroll, he has 9 frames of strike invincibility, during which he can pick follow-ups, including the parry follow-up, right? So he can touch it, and then parry again, and then get the parry to go off, right? The thing that's tricky that a lot of people don't know until you tell them is that he has 9 frames of strike invincibility, but the dash startup is 10 frames. So it doesn't really carry over into the dash ever if you're mashing something like Bedman 2P, for example. Like if you're doing Bedman 2P and just like ripping them like this, he would get hit during the dash startup. Like that, see? Where normally if you were to say just press one button, like a close slash or a far slash or something, he'll usually go through it and then catch you after the active frames are done with that move. Like that. So usually the RPS is if there's a scroll here, you just kind of pick something that's a multi-hit. Task B will usually catch it. The tricky part is like you really want to be ready, because remember, if he knows that you're going to interrupt him going to the scroll and then dashing like this, then he'll do the other one. He'll do parry into parry like this. Right? But the situation is kind of like the one we said before, where if you press like 2 buttons and wait, this is minus, right? And even if it hits you, it never actually combos into anything. It's only ever a knockdown where he gets a scroll set or 2. It's never a combo. So as far as risk reward usually goes, usually you want to assume the answer will do the scroll dash and be okay with being wrong. You can check like twice and then just wait. Like that. And if he parries, you're good. And if he does the scroll dash, you just kind of hit him twice anyway. And it'll interrupt it, you know? It's just like a weird dynamic to get used to. When the scrolls are around, it kind of affects some of the RPS involved. Where if there's no scrolls around, I usually just tell people to safe jump him. And if he backdashes, it's not going to do anything for him in the corner if he backdashes a lot of the times. Because it takes so long to finish. And if you parries, you just block it. Yeah. Hopefully that gives you like a better idea. The tricky part about answer is that he has so many weird mechanics just tailored to him, that in order for you to learn them all, it's a lot. As far as the neutral goes, just hang out closer. If you want actual reference, just go watch KB Nova fight me. Like, Let me see. I'll pull it up real fast. Real fast. I don't remember where it was. Oh, it's on my channel. It should be on my Twitch. I never actually upload the stuff to my YouTube. Like, they're not dedicated sessions, and I'm way too lazy to upload, like, entire streams. But, let me see. It should be, like, relatively recent. I think it's this one. I think I see me literally fighting Bedman in this image. Yeah. Here. How do I link a VOD? Oh, here it is. So, I think, like, basically from the beginning to later on, it's me fighting KB Nova in that VOD. It's a solid, like, hour, probably, of me fighting KB Nova with Answer. Eventually, I play Biken towards the later end, but it's like about an hour, probably, of me. Yeah, it's like over an hour of me playing Answer. I would say he gets cooked defensively by Answer probably about as much as you do. Or like anybody without tons of Answer experience does. But a lot of his offense is better. Like, a lot of his just staying on top of me is a lot better. So if you're wondering how to play the neutral, he's probably a lot more comfortable with someone like Answer. And like just bullying people in general is something that he's better at. Okay. We only had 2 VOD reviews today, so it was a pretty chill day. I streamed a whole ton over the long weekend since I didn't work Friday. So it's like kind of 50-50 if I come back and stream some more, but I do kind of want to like actually do some errands and stuff today, so I'm gonna call it here just for the VOD review. You guys already know they're bi-weekly, so the next one's in 2 weeks, probably on Saturday, so that if anybody has weird schedule conflicts, it will line up differently for it. But we'll see. No guarantees. There's a lot of birthdays in my family in this month, so it might be tricky to do some of the bi-weekly stuff, but we'll only be busy one of the weekend days, so I'll just do it the other one. But yeah, 2 weeks, we do the next one. If you already submitted, you can submit again. I always tell people, like, the system is in place for new people anyway. Like, it's not gonna, you're never gonna steal somebody's spot that deserves to have VOD review. So it'll be up if anybody has more stuff they want review on. Always, you can just submit to it. But yeah, for now, I'll catch you guys later. I don't see anybody. I think Kavister was streaming. Yeah, Kavister's streaming Exerd. I can't like vouch too heavily for them, but I'm sure they're probably chill if you guys want to go watch Exerd some more. But yeah, maybe I'll come back later. We'll see. But for now, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.